Am I the a-hole for telling my son he owes nothing to his new family? My 50 male ex-wife, Jane, 38 female, and I divorced 3 years ago. We have a 14-year-old son. My ex-wife recently remarried to a guy named Anthony. Anthony has a 12-year-old son. My son has expressed two major problems with this guy and his son. One is that Anthony and Jane want my son and his son to share a room so they can bond. The house has 5 bedrooms. I should know because she took it in the divorce. Lol. 2 is that they want my son to turn all of his gaming consoles into family consoles. He has a PS5, an Xbox One, a Switch, and a gaming PC. I told my son that number 2 can easily be solved, as I offered to buy Anthony's son all of the same things that my son has, or the cash equivalent in case he has no interest. But Anthony and Jane refused. My son and Anthony's son also asked if they could have separate rooms, as there are 3 unoccupied rooms, and Anthony and Jane said that brothers should spend time together, and that you have to work through a tough situation. There's no easy way out. I told my son that this is BS, as there is a solution that would easily solve all of these problems, and that he owes them nothing. Yesterday, I got an angry call from Jane, saying that I'm exhibiting a white savior complex. Everyone involved is white, so I don't know how that pertains to this. By offering to buy new stuff, and that the poison lies I'm feeding my son are ruining her new marriage. She also said that my son needs to be a brother to Anthony's son, to which I replied that forcing a relationship will only cause resentment. She called me an a-hole and out of touch, but I don't see how I'm the villain here. So, am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. I was forced to share a room with my stepsister after meeting her once. She stole from me, was constantly on her laptop at night so I could never sleep, and when she was nice, we still didn't bond much. It wasn't until adulthood, when we weren't living together, that we started to get close, and she took me to do things I've never done before. It's kinda crazy that he should be forced to share all of his consoles with someone against his will when they were bought for him. It was also kinda cool that you offered to buy the other kid the same thing. Also, at 14, guys need a little more privacy, and I'm sure even a 12-year-old wants his own privacy. They should just take them to events together or take them to arcades together to have them bond. Why would 2 teenage boys need privacy in their bedrooms? Everything about the wife's behavior is going to push the son away and cause major resentment all around. You cannot force anyone to bond, especially not by mistreating them into it. Not the a-hole. Yeah, I feel bad for both boys here. The mom is basically setting up a situation where they will both resent each other. If you want 2 kids to never bond, this plan is an excellent way to accomplish that. Not the a-hole. Your ex and her new husband sure are, though. Your son shouldn't be forced to share a room when there are plenty available, nor give up his things to appease the adults in the house. Not sure your custody situation, but this is definitely something that should be brought up. Exactly. Not the a-hole. Your ex and new partner are so close-minded. The boys can still bond while having separate rooms. Their forcing will only cause them to hate the other. Not the a-hole. Your ex sounds nuts, and is humiliating your son by forcing 2 new people in his life, and by having to live in another man's house that used to be his house. File for sole custody citing emotional abuse. My son doesn't want me to file for sole custody, as he is afraid that would permanently cut off his relationship with his mother. He just wants her to understand his needs. Maybe majority custody then? Yeah, I think I'm going to talk to him about the fact that his mom is too enamored with her new husband to put his needs first. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for blowing up after I found out my husband dropped our daughter off at my cousin's practice? I, female 33, work long, stressful hours. I'm a nurse with a busy work schedule due to lack of staff and working in a very demanding unit. I have a 1-year-old daughter. My husband and I take turns to take care of her. He manages well, but he always says that he does everything from Sunday to Tuesday, while I handle everything from Wednesday to Friday. Then we do it together. My husband works 3 days a week on routine shifts. Unlike me, sometimes I don't get enough sleep. Last week was so busy in the unit I work in. I had an unexpected 16-hour shift on Thursday. I realized it's my turn to take care of our daughter. I was counting on going home early, but with 16 hours, I needed someone to watch her. I asked my husband to take the day and watch her, and he said okay, and told me not to worry at all. He'd stay home all day, no problem, even though he had a meeting with his friend group for lunch. At 2 p.m., I got a call from my older cousin, who I consider a sister to me, telling me my husband dropped our daughter off at the dental practice my cousin works in at 10 a.m. to go see his friends and hasn't got back. She told me to either call him to come get her or I needed to come myself since she was too busy with work. I was livid. I called him, but he didn't answer. I immediately called my mom to go pick my daughter up because I couldn't leave the hospital. My husband didn't return my calls, only texted me saying he was at home all day with our daughter, till he found out our daughter was at my mom's place. I argued with him on the phone, and he then brought her home. After I arrived home, I lost it and yelled at him for lying. I called him unreasonable for prioritizing his friends over his daughter. He argued, pointing out it wasn't true, and I was being unfair since it wasn't his day off the week but was being supportive of me and didn't want me to be stressed out. Said that I shouldn't feel upset since I got to go to my shift whether he watched our daughter or had someone else do it. I told him my cousin was upset, but too nice to say anything about what he did. He kept saying I overreacted and was yelling for no reason since our daughter was with family anyway. The argument got worse. He apologized, but still thought I overreacted and was being upset for no reason. He simply asked my cousin to babysit since we did the family a few favors in the past. Not day haul. Being a parent isn't only associated with your days, and being a good partner isn't either. The fact that he also didn't try to go get your daughter when he got done with his 4-hour lunch and lied to you about makes it all more infuriating. Who the hell has a 4-hour lunch? Someone who's screwing their side chick on their lunch. Your cousin didn't sign up to babysit. She was working. And the fact that he thinks it's not only okay to do that, but also to then proceed to have a 4+ hour lunch is freaking terrifying. Definitely not day haul. Not day haul. He lied to you repeatedly until busted. Do you believe him when he tells you where he was? That was my first thought. He has such a rigid childcare schedule to make sure he has dedicated side piece time too. I don't know anyone who would dump their kids off and lie about it for a friend's lunch. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for yelling at my husband after he told me to sleep on the bed you ruined? My husband, male 32, and I, female 26, both work. We used to work together on chores and cooking. But recently, he has been doing pretty much nothing. Note, I'm pregnant and I feel sick all the time. Despite that, I do all I can. He lost his pet, Bird, 2 months ago, and that's when he stopped doing anything in the apartment. I understand he's grieving, but I started thinking he's using the line "I'm grieving" to skip chores. He works 3 days a week. I work long hours, nurse, and every time I come home to take care of everything. I kept my mouth shut thinking he's depressed and in grief, but he goes out with friends, laughs on social media, plays board games, and watches Netflix nightly, and is relaxed to the fullest. Last night, I came home at 9 p.m. He already had dinner and left dishes in the sink. I cleaned up, ate dinner, and went to bed. He was already asleep when I walked in. The conflict started when I saw that my side of the bed was wet. I woke him up to ask him about the huge stain on my side of bed. He told me he spilled milk while he was watching YouTube on my side of bed and forgot to clean it up. I was stunned. I yelled at him asking if he was serious when he said he'd clean it up tomorrow and told me to sleep on it. I blew up, and I started calling him inconsiderate, and quite frankly, a user, since he keeps arguing that I'm cruel for not leaving him alone to grieve his beloved. I told him he didn't care that much about his pet since he's having fun and playing games. He looked at me shocked, asked if I was done with my lecture, then said he couldn't believe I questioned his love for his pet. Then went outside. We pretty much haven't talked since then. I slept on the mattress on the floor since the bed soaked the milk stain. He took the sheets to clean them up, and I felt guilty for what I said to him. He seems hurt and acts as if he is shocked by what I said. Now for the top comments. Not day haul. Run. I feel like he's just using it as an excuse to not do stuff. I lost my pet bird a few weeks ago and was back to functioning the next day. I might just be insensitive though, so I don't want to gatekeep grieving. Not Dayhall. Your husband is just searching for an excuse to exploit your kindness. You are a pregnant, hardworking woman. He is a lazy leech with no remorse. Exactly. Not Dayhall. If he is able to go out, he is able to do chores. He is taking it too far and is definitely using it as an excuse. If the spilled milk was no big deal, he should have slept on it. He is not working as much as you. He needs to start pulling his weight. Not Dayhall. This is an indication of how much is going to help you when baby arrives. You're exhausted now at working on the front line in a pandemic whilst pregnant. Any normal man would be telling you to put your feet up when you come home, and doing as much as possible, especially when he only works 3 days a week. Please look after yourself and tell him you and the little one need his help at the moment. And if he is struggling with the grief of his pet still, he should see a therapist. He really is milking it. We lost our pet dog 2 months ago, and he was a big part of our family. He was especially attached to me and our middle child. We still miss him terribly, and the kids talk about him all the time. But we still go to work and look after our house. Please take it easier and don't let him guilt you, as you already have so much on your plate. Sending you internet hugs if you would like them. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for getting upset and grounding my daughter after she brought up my girlfriend's miscarriage? I, 43 male, have 3 children. 17 female, 14 female, and 12 male. 7 years ago, my beautiful wife, Elena, passed away. I don't even know how to express this through words. But she was my life, and every day I'm devastated by the loss. Back in December of 2019, I met a woman through church. She's sweet, funny, and it was a mutual attraction. We've been seeing each other throughout 2020, and recently, I introduced her to my children. We've been taking it slow, making it clear that she's not a replacement for their mother, that they don't have to like her, but they do have to respect her. My children, to be clear, did go to therapy, but we are looking for a new one for my oldest daughter. I've always spent every single free moment of my time with my children, even when I started dating again. I made it clear that I know they're still mourning, and that's okay. As it was, my girlfriend came over to stay for a few days. Everything went, well, I could say. My younger children are fond of her. My oldest doesn't particularly like her, but we're taking it slow and not forcing anything on her. My girlfriend suffered a miscarriage several years ago and is still deeply affected by it. We had a conversation on it during one of the nights, and I guess my daughter overheard it. During dinner, we were talking and the conversation went to what my son was almost named, and my daughter looked at my girlfriend and said, "What were you gonna name your dead baby?" It was terrible. My girlfriend, obviously, got upset and left the room. I asked my daughter why she'd ask such a thing, and she just shrugged and said that she didn't see the big deal. I told her that it was an awful thing to say to someone and sent her and her siblings up to their rooms and then went to talk to my girlfriend. She was crying and inconsolable and left to go back to her apartment. I went back and talked to my daughter. She did not show remorse and simply said that she didn't see the big deal in what she'd said. I told her that my girlfriend was upset and that while I understood that she was still mourning, that didn't make what she said okay. I told her that she was grounded for 2 weeks, no electronics. She got angry, but just wanted to be left alone, so I did. Next thing I know, I get a call from Elena's mother, who told me that I shouldn't have grounded my daughter because she was still adjusting to having another mother figure in her life, and that I shouldn't punish her for just being upset. She admitted that what my daughter said was wrong, but also said that I was squashing my daughter's feelings and being angry for no reason. I guess I can see both sides. But on one hand, I feel like I'm betraying my daughter, and on the other, I feel like I'm betraying my girlfriend and I need unbiased opinions. Edited, I apologize for forgetting. My girlfriend is 36 years old. Not Dayhall. Your daughter is 17, old enough to realize that bringing up sensitive and painful topics is not expressing her feelings. She knows she said a cruel thing, likely with the intent to drive away your new girlfriend. She's not showing remorse because hurting her was almost certainly her actual intent. Not Dayhall. She's clearly lying. She knows exactly what's wrong with what she asked. These aren't little kids. They're teenagers. And what you've described sounds like a cold, calculated move designed to upset your girlfriend. She's old enough to know that eavesdropping is wrong, that questioning people about deeply personal stuff, like a miscarriage, is wrong, and sharing someone else's secret publicly is wrong. Exactly. Opie's not punishing his daughter for having feelings. Opie's punishing her for being deliberately cruel. Not Dayhall. She's been grieving for 7 years. She doesn't get to use that as an excuse to be a horrible person. She needs to learn this now. Also, how did Elena's mom find out if your daughter isn't supposed to be using electronics? Ooh, good catch. One of the siblings helped, or she's got a hidden device somewhere. Am I the a-hole for missing most of my daughter's wedding? After she scheduled hers the day after my stepdaughter's wedding, even though I tried to be there? My daughter has always been resentful of my stepdaughter. And growing up, we've had to deal with a lot of issues related to this resentment. The unfortunate reality was that my ex and I had shared custody. So naturally, I saw my daughter less than my stepdaughter. My stepdaughter's biological father passed away, and I've treated her like my own since she was 2. I love them both equally, and I've never shown preferential treatment towards my stepdaughter, something my daughter always accuses me of. In 2019, my stepdaughter sent out a save-the-date for her wedding for a Saturday in September. My daughter immediately called me, furious, and accusing her stepsister of deliberately planning her wedding the day before hers. My daughter sent out her own save-the-date a week later for the Sunday on that same weekend. I talked to my stepdaughter, who said it was pure coincidence, and that she doesn't even talk to my daughter after all those years of them not getting along. The issue is that my daughter's wedding was happening in another state that is 13-hour drive away, and both of them wanted me to walk them down the aisle. All of my extended family chose to attend my daughter's wedding over my stepdaughter's. I did the math, and I calculated that if I left my stepdaughter's wedding at 10 p.m. and drove through the night, I'd make it with 2 hours to freshen up and get ready. Unfortunately, I got lost along the way plus traffic, but I missed the actual wedding ceremony. My daughter's stepfather ended up walking her down the aisle by himself. I feel like I tried my best to make both my children happy, but I failed one of them completely. My stepdaughter and her husband have been attacked on Facebook by my daughter's friends who is claiming that my stepdaughter planned it on purpose. And when I tried to clear up the situation, I was completely shut down. I gave my daughter and son-in-law an additional gift of money to go to Japan, which has always been their dream. It was a lot of money, but I hoped it would be a sort of way for me to ask for forgiveness. They had to postpone their trip because of COVID, but my daughter refuses to even consider any sort of forgiveness. The few times she picks up my calls always ends with her bringing up the wedding and getting angry at me again. I was told by a few members of my family that I was the a-hole for not prioritizing my biological child's wedding and skipping my stepdaughter's wedding instead. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comment. You're the a-hole. Word of advice, Opie. The reason why she isn't satisfied is because she never wanted the money or expensive gifts. She just wanted her dad. I feel like this was a pattern for her growing up. I know it was beyond your control and you say there was no favoritism, but it probably came off that way. You're not an a-hole for trying to be there for both of them. You're the a-hole for being blind thinking you can buy her off. My first thought was to wonder why Opie didn't book a flight instead of driving 13 hours. Surely if Opie has money to splash for a holiday for his daughter, he could have booked a plane and hire a car. Opie replied in one of the comments that it'd take longer. You're the a-hole. You have 2 daughters who were engaged in planning weddings, and you were so disengaged that you didn't even know what month they were both looking at for the wedding. Were you even talking to them about it? Then, knowing that your daughter struggles with you being more present in the stepdaughter's life than hers, you prioritized the stepdaughter's reception over being sure you'd be present at your daughter's wedding. Yeah, I can see why she's upset. You can say you have good intentions, but that's not going to change the perception that she has. that you didn't care for years, and even on this day, you picked someone else. Hard to disagree. I'm wedding planning right now, and I guarantee that my parents don't know our date off the top of their heads, especially because these things change as venues and catering and such are figured out. The entire purpose of a save the date is to share your finalized date and location with your family and guests. Info. Was your first time hearing about these weddings the day you received the save the dates? Did neither of your daughters share possible dates with you beforehand? Was bio daughter invited to stepdaughter's wedding? And why didn't you leave until 10 p.m.? Everyone sucks here. Your bio daughter because she didn't help any of the drama at best, and at worst purposefully caused the drama. You for thinking 2 hours is a good buffer after a 13-hour drive that you started at 10 p.m. after a wedding. You would have walked down that aisle looking like a zombie even after a shower. Rude to your daughter for not leaving until 10 p.m. Friend's opinion or not, you did choose your stepdaughter over your bio daughter. If you expect your bio daughter to get over her bio father who was supposed to walk her down the aisle not even being there, why wouldn't you expect your stepdaughter to understand that you had to leave her party to walk your other daughter down the aisle? The way you phrased the "unfortunately stepdaughter lived with me full time so I had more time with her," in my opinion, sounds like a justification for the same performative effort but lack of actual effort and care taken in this matter. You are at fault at least as much as her in this. Next story. Am I the a-hole for not inviting my aunt to my wedding and saying she's not invited to my bridal shower? My Aunt Diane, fake name, isn't someone who's a nice person. She, my dad, and her sister, my other aunt, do not get along. They're always feuding over politics and BS. I haven't seen her in years, and she's largely been absent from my life. This summer, both my sister and I are getting married. My sister and I are in vastly different fields. I work for a software company as a designer, and my sister's becoming a doctor. We're just very different people with different interests. But for some reason, Aunt Diane always feels the need to brag about my sister on Facebook, even though she's not a part of her life either. She'll post things about how proud of her she is, how wonderful she is, and had never once felt the need to do that about me. Normally, I would just brush it off because I really don't care what she thinks. She's just a sad woman. The background behind why I don't want her at my wedding is this. I got engaged a full year before my sister. My fiancé and I have been together almost 10 years now and have just not been in a rush to get married. I didn't think twice about not getting a congratulatory comment/post from her. But when my sister got engaged a year later, she posted multiple things on Facebook about their engagement, about her fiancé, about the ring, etc. That's when I lost it. I told my parents she was under no circumstances invited to my wedding or shower. I was the one who sent the wedding invite, so I never sent one to her. I'm pretty sure my dad, her brother, just told her she wasn't invited because she couldn't come anyway. I just went to my sister's shower the other day, and my Aunt Betty told me that Aunt Diane would absolutely be attending my shower. I told her this was news to me since she wasn't invited to my wedding. My mom looked mortified and got pissed at me. I refuse to have someone attend my wedding who's made it clear she doesn't care about me. Am I the a-hole for not inviting her? Edit. Someone mentioned this and I want to clear this up. My aunt does not have a closer relationship with my sister versus me. Neither one of us has spoken to her in 20 plus years. We just happen to all be Facebook friends. She's never reached out to either of us prior to my sister starting medical school. And my aunt and I are no longer Facebook friends. Lol. Not the a-hole. You're not under any obligation to invite anyone. It's your celebration, so you get to decide who to celebrate with. Also, under no obligation to be Facebook friends with anyone you don't want to. Not the a-hole, but it might be a good idea to communicate with Diane directly and explain that she is not invited. Maybe record a conversation. I offered to reach out to her personally about this decision, and my parents told me absolutely not. I'm an adult and feel that I'm the one who owes her this explanation. I hate being fake. As you say, you're an adult. Perhaps it's time to not let your parents control how you communicate with your aunt. Tactfully respecting her parents' wishes about how to interact with her aunt isn't the parents controlling her communication. There hasn't been any escalation here on the part of the aunt. If she starts talking trash on Facebook, then it would be worth confronting her regardless of the parents' wishes. Right now, though, OP doesn't need to ring her up and say, "I'm not inviting you because blank." That would be OP escalating the situation and inviting conflict. Exactly. I'm not letting my parents control me. I'm just respecting them and not causing a blowout fight. Not day-haul. My wife and I work in weddings, and I'm gonna tell you the same thing we tell every one of our couples. It's your day, not theirs. And if you don't want someone at your wedding, then you don't need to have them there. Next story is titled, "Am I the a-hole for lying to my mother about keeping contact with ex-step family?" Male 19. I lived alone with my mom for all my childhood. But around 11, my mom started a relationship with a dude who hated me and whom I hated. However, he had 2 daughters that came living with us, all whom I loved. Brotherly sons. Since he was a prick to me, and sadly, my mom was a prick to them, it was the world against us 3. I still got out of this home around 16 years old and went living in a college town. I supply myself 100%. Food, my college, rent, car, etc. And I'm 19 now. But I kept coming back at least every 2 weeks to see my sisters and do something with them. They're 13 and 14 today, by the way. My mom and ex-stepfather broke up in January, and my mom specifically asked me to not have any contact with any of the step family. But I couldn't abandon my sisters. I still visit them every week almost because they're my chosen family, and ex-stepfather is not the best parent. I help them in homework or online school, take them for activities. I had to help the eldest buy her first tampons and get her the pill to help menstrual cramp. In short, I try to help them. My mom found out and got really mad that I still talk to her ex in order to keep contact with my sisters, even though I've always hated him. She threatened to stop all of her financial help. I got mad and told her I'd been living without any help for the last 3 years, which is true. She got even madder and threatened to not even acknowledge me until I asked for forgiveness and stopped seeing them. I haven't talked to her for the last 2 months. She won't even respond to me. I want to have a good relationship with her, but I can't let go of my sisters. I hate her for this, but feel guilty for this at the same time. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Your mom brought them into your family, then expects you to abandon them? Your mom is an a-hole. Thank you. Dude, you're a good man. Your sister needs you more than your mom does. Keep being there for them. So basically, your mom wanted you to play family for 8 years because she fell in love, and now she wants you to stop being family because she broke up? It doesn't work that way. It's amazing you have a good connection with your steps. Don't give it up. Not the a-hole. You disobeyed your mom's wishes. Check. But does she have any authority whatsoever over you? Nope. This is not about her. This is your life, and tell her to mind her own business. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. Blood is really the smallest part of what makes someone family. There's no reason to feel guilty about maintaining your relationship with them. That's what I tend to think. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for comparing my mom and her husband to people my in-laws dislike as a way of making it clear where I stood? Confusing title, so I will explain. When I was 8, my dad died. I was the second of 4 kids. My older brother was 10, my sister was 6, and my younger brother 4. Mom married her husband 11 months after our dad died. He was a widower 14 months with 4 of his own kids, ages 11, 9, 7, and 5. The blending was done in the worst way. Met months after our parents died, moved in 11 weeks after meeting, and they were married with some family around 2 weeks after moving in together. It was pretty much said we were family now, not a blended family. He was dad, she was mom, and we were siblings. Me, my older brother, and his 3 older kids struggled. We hated the steps. We did not want to blend. We cried for our parents. Nobody got any therapy. Adoption was pushed, but thankfully mine and my brother's voices as well as the voices of his older 2 were listened to. But his 7-year-old was adopted by our mom because he was considered too young to decide. They ended up having 4 more kids together. It broke pretty spectacularly, and I don't speak to my mom or her husband, and I don't see or speak to his kids. The only reason I ever see them is because of my younger siblings, and the fact they consider him dad and are close with them. Anyway, my husband, son, and I were at my younger sister's housewarming thing. She invited my in-laws. In-laws were always aware I didn't come from a close or happy family. They knew when I didn't invite my mom to my wedding or introduced her to my son. But we were there, and I told them they were like the parents from the TLC show The Blended Bunch, just a little less twisted. My in-laws hate the show and hate the couple there, and for them, it was all they needed to know. Apparently, my mom's husband overheard and they made it a big deal, even telling my sister what I said. She told them it was no secret I didn't like them, and not to make it a big deal. But my cousin and aunt went and told me I was a witch, and I should let the past go, have a relationship with my parents, which makes me sick because he is not my parent. But I do wonder if the comment at the place and time was wrong, and maybe it makes me a bit of a prick. My older brother found it hilarious, but he shares the sentiment. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. Your mom married another guy in less than a year. You weren't allowed proper time to mourn and lived in a literal hell. Anyone saying that you should leave the past behind should take a seat and stay quiet, especially those who have a warm and loving home with loving parents. You didn't have that privilege, so those who do can just stay quiet. Why is it that leave the past behind folks are always the ones who mistreat you? And they never apologize. They just want you to stop being mad/hurt about their horrible actions. Then they're horrible all over again. Not the a-hole. Yes, it was the wrong place and time, but the shoe fits so well. Not the a-hole. Wow, I am so incredibly sorry you had to deal with that. I was reading this with my jaw dropped at how horribly everything was handled. Not the a-hole. This is one of the rare occasions when you're actually around your mom and her husband, and you should have been more discreet. But you didn't say it to intentionally cause conflict or drama. So for me, I think it falls in the category of honest mistake. Your cousin and aunt were out of line. They decided to create the scene, not you, and telling you to let the past go is not appropriate.